There's a moment, almost too delicate to name, when everything around you loosens its hold. You felt it before, that gentle pause in the air, as if even the night takes a slow breath on your behalf. And as I sit beside you now, speaking softly into that quiet space around your shoulders, I can almost sense the way your thoughts begin to lower their voices. It's subtle, but it's there, isn't it? A kind of hush, settling in, like a thin layer of snow that silences the ground without ever asking for attention. You and I have walked to this place many times, though maybe you haven't always noticed the path. It begins with those small shifts, the body sinking a little deeper, the mind loosening its grip on the day, the breath finding its own natural rhythm again. And in those quiet shifts, the world starts to step back, almost respectfully, giving you room to rest. Sometimes I wonder if this is what peace truly looks like. Not an achievement, not a thing to earn, but the simple permission to stop holding everything at once. Let me stay close as this threshold forms. You don't have to do anything. Just listen to the way the room softens around you. Notice how even the darkness seems gentle tonight, like a familiar blanket, not an empty space. Doesn't it feel a bit like the air is cradling you, supporting you without asking for anything in return? There's a softness in the way your story unfolds here. You might not see it, but I do. A quiet courage in letting yourself drift, in trusting the stillness enough to lean into it. You've spent so much time carrying noise, little worries that cling to the edges of your mind, old thoughts that replay out of habit, the endless to-do lists that never really matter at this hour. They all begin to settle now, falling away like leaves after the wind decides to rest. And as you settle too, I can almost hear the shift inside you, that faint release, like a door gently clicking shut. Behind your day, you're stepping into something softer now, a space where nothing has to be solved or remembered, only felt, only breathed, only allowed to be quiet. You might ask yourself, is it really okay to let go this completely? And the night itself seems to answer for you. Yes, even more than you think. This threshold isn't a place you force your way into. It's a place that opens itself when you're ready. And right now, you are. I can feel it in the way your breath slows. I can hear it in the silence between your thoughts. You're right at the doorway of rest, standing in that tender space where the world steps back, and you begin to step inward, toward the deeper quiet waiting for you. Just stay with me here for a moment longer. This is where the journey begins, following the dim lantern path into the subconscious hallway. Come closer now, just a little. Let the dimness gather around you like a soft shawl sliding over your shoulders. There's something I want to show you, something you've walked past thousands of times without ever really noticing. It appears only when the mind begins to soften, when your inner world grows quiet enough for the faintest glows to stand out. And tonight, right here beside you, that small lantern light has returned, waiting for you again. Do you see it? That gentle pinpoint of warmth in the dark. Not bright, not demanding, just quietly there, like it knows you, as if it's been saving a place for you all, this time. You take a slow breath, and the lantern's glow grows subtly stronger, illuminating the outline of a floor you remember in a way that feels more like memory than vision. A path not outside, but within you. I can almost feel your hesitation, that tiny pause before stepping forward. But don't worry, you're not going anywhere unfamiliar. This hallway is yours. It always has been. I'm simply walking it with you tonight. As we move closer, the light widens, revealing the first few feet of the corridor. It's surprisingly calm here, isn't it? The walls aren't cold or rigid, they're soft, textured like worn fabric, as if shaped by years of your own thoughts brushing softly against them. The air carries a quiet warmth, a sensation like breathing near the surface of a slow, steady dream. Each step you take down this lantern-lit hallway feels like a release. It's strange how the body knows long before the mind does, how your shoulders sink a little lower, how the breath deepens without asking permission, how your spine softens into its natural curve. It's almost as though the path is walking you, not the other way around. Have you ever noticed how comforting dim light can be? Brightness sometimes asks too much. It reveals everything, demands clarity. But this soft glow, it asks nothing. It lets things remain slightly blurred, gently undefined. And maybe that's why your subconscious prefers it. Because nothing here needs to be sharp. Nothing needs to be solved. Nothing is waiting to startle you. As you walk, the lantern feels less like an object and more like a companion. It floats just a little ahead, steady, patient, guiding you at a pace that feels natural to your breath. Every so often it flickers, not out of uncertainty, but like a quiet reminder that even light has its own heartbeat. And you begin to notice the hush, not silence exactly, more like a softened echo of your thoughts drifting behind you. Growing fainter with each step, the hallway seems to absorb them gently, like a friend who listens without ever needing to respond. You don't have to hurry. The path bends only when you're ready. It reveals only what you can hold. For now, just keep following that lantern, letting its warm circle of light guide you deeper into yourself, toward the places where the mind learns to rest and the noise finally begins to fade. The room of settling dust, letting thoughts drift out of focus. There's a quiet change in the air as you leave the lantern-lit hallway behind, a shift so gentle it almost feels like the moment between inhaling and exhaling, when everything pauses just long enough for calm to unfurl. You step into a room that seems to breathe with you, expanding slightly as you enter, as though it recognizes you, as though it's been expecting your return. The first thing you notice is the dust. Not the harsh, dry kind. This is soft, weightless, drifting in slow, circles through the dimness. Each tiny speck floats as if suspended in warm twilight, turning lazily in the air, like little thoughts that no longer have anywhere urgent to go. You've seen this dust before, I think. Maybe not with your eyes, but with that deeper sense inside you that recognizes moments of stillness before you consciously name them. You stand there for a moment, quietly, letting your gaze soften, and something inside you softens too. Isn't it strange how, in this room, you don't feel the need to hold on to anything? Even the thoughts that usually tug at your attention seem to lose their edges, becoming hazy, gentle, almost shy. They drift around you like the dust motes, unsure if they want to settle or disappear altogether. I stay beside you, lowering my voice a little, as if even the room itself deserves to be spoken to gently. You don't have to chase anything here, I whisper, and the air seems to nod in agreement. The dust continues to settle in, slow spirals, each particle descending with the grace of something that has finally decided to rest. You take a breath, a long, natural one, and in that breath, your mind loosens. Thoughts that were sharp earlier in the day feel distant now, as though someone placed them on a high shelf where they no longer clamor for your attention. Some drift downward like feathers, landing softly on the invisible floor of your inner quiet. Others dissolve mid-air, unneeded, unnoticed, unmissed. Have you ever watched dust falling in sunlight? How time seems to stretch around it? That same sensation is here, a gentle elongation of the moment, a feeling that nothing needs to happen all at once. Everything is allowed to unfold slowly. You are allowed to unfold slowly. There's a wooden chair in the far corner, not carved or polished, just simple, familiar. When you sit down, it creaks softly, a warm, lived-in sound that somehow deepens the comfort of the space. You feel the Subtle settling of your body, the grounding, the way your breath seems to drop deeper into your chest. The dust swirls around you, and with every drift, some part of your mind grows quieter. And maybe you notice something else, a sense of permission, a quiet surrender, a relief you didn't know you were reaching for. Thoughts don't need to vanish. They simply lose their urgency here. They soften, blur, lighten, becoming background, becoming harmless, becoming part of the gentle. Dusk inside this room. Just stay with me a little longer, letting the dust settle around you and within you. As you rise from the wooden chair and step beyond the room of settling dust, a soft hush follows you, a kind of lingering quiet that clings gently to your skin. The air shifts again, growing cooler, calmer, as though guiding you toward a deeper stillness. And when you cross the next threshold, the space that greets you feels almost like a memory you never quite lived, yet somehow recognize. Rows upon rows of shelves stretch outward in long, gentle curves. They're not rigid or imposing. They lean slightly inward, like old friends bending closer to hear you breathe. The wood is worn smooth by time, its edges softened by years of holding things that mattered once, but not urgently, not anymore. Each shelf carries objects, tiny boxes, folded notes, small stones, bits of fabric that hold warmth even in the dimness. And as you step inside, you notice something strange but comforting. The room is whispering, not loudly, not clearly, just a faint murmur like distant voices carried through layers of dreams. You pause, letting your ears adjust, letting your breath settle into the rhythm of the space. And then you hear it, a soft echo rising from the shelves themselves. It's your voice, not the voice you use for the world outside, but the voice you've used to speak to yourself over the years. The voice of old thoughts, quiet fears, passing worries, forgotten questions. They aren't loud anymore. They've softened with time, faded around the edges like ink gently blurring underwater. Do I need to listen to these? You might ask yourself in a whisper, and the room answers in its own tender way. The echoes continue, but they don't cling. They drift, unraveling into softer and softer sounds until they dissolve completely, like distant waves receding into the horizon. You walk slowly between the shelves, your fingers grazing the air above each object. You don't feel the need to pick anything up. The whispers rise and fall on their own, like breath exhaled through centuries of quiet remembering. And the longer you stand here, the more you realize something subtle but profound. The echoes are fading without your effort. No pushing, no silencing, just natural quiet. Isn't it comforting to know that not every thought needs your attention, that some of them, many of them, can fade all on their own? You keep moving, deeper into the room. The shelves seem to glow faintly, illuminated not by lanterns, but by the quiet inside you. The murmurs become softer, like sighs slipping through cracks in the wood. Some whisper a final phrase before disappearing entirely. Others don't speak at all. They simply unspool into silence the moment you draw near. And you notice the shift. Not abrupt, not dramatic. Just a gentle easing, like loosening a knot that never needed to be tight. Your mind is quieter now. Not empty, just still, like a lake at night untouched by wind. I stay beside you, my voice low, as if afraid to stir the peaceful air around us. You don't have to hold any of this, I murmur. It knows how to let go. And as you stand there among the whispering shelves, you can feel it. The old echoes softening into nothing, leaving behind only a sense of calm, deep and unhurried, waiting to guide you further inward. As you leave the whispering shelves, behind, the pathway narrows into a gentler curve, leading you toward a quieter alcove tucked deep within the archive. The air here feels a little cooler on your skin, almost like standing near an open window at night. Not cold, just clarifying, like a breath that knows exactly how to reach the deeper spaces of your chest. There's a faint shimmer ahead, a subtle glint, like moonlight caught on glass. You step closer, your footsteps slow and steady, and gradually a single drawer comes into view. Small, elegant, crafted entirely of clear crystal. It glows faintly from within, as though holding a soft memory of light. You recognize it long before you reach it. This drawer has always been here. It holds things you once believed you had to carry. Old worries, tiny, persistent thoughts, little anxieties that once curled themselves around your ribs. And yet, even from where you stand now, you can see something different about them. The drawer isn't humming with tension. It's quiet, almost serene. The objects inside are faint and pale, like distant shapes seen through fogged glass. They don't feel heavy anymore. They don't feel sharp. They're simply memories of emotions, echoes that have lost their urgency. You rest your hands lightly on the smooth edge of the drawer. It's cool, steady, grounding beneath your fingertips. Do I really need to open it? You wonder softly, and the silence around you answers with a gentle certainty. Only if you want to, and only for a moment. So you pull the drawer open just an inch, just enough for the soft light inside to spill gently across your hands. The worries inside don't rush at you. They don't sting. They simply sit there like old keepsakes, familiar but muted, quiet, small. You notice how delicate they look now. The worry you once carried about disappointing someone, the anxiety tangled in something you couldn't control, the fear that kept you awake long after midnight, the doubt that whispered through moments that should have felt peaceful. Here, in the crystalline glow, they look different, like dried petals kept long after the fragrance faded. You don't feel guilty for having held them. You don't feel foolish. You simply understand that they belong to a version of you that was trying its best. And somehow, that understanding softens everything. You slide the drawer open another inch, just enough to breathe with it, as if letting your past exhale in unison with your lungs. Nothing inside pulls at you. Nothing tries to follow you. These worries have tired themselves out. Time has made them gentle. Thank you, you whisper. Not to the worries themselves, but to the part of you that carried them for so long. And even that quiet gratitude feels like a release. You place your fingertips on the smooth glass edge, not to hold, to close. Slowly, without force, without resistance, you slide the drawer shut. The crystal makes a soft, almost musical click, a sound that feels more like closure than anything you've ever done consciously in waking life. And just like that, the glow softens, the worries recede. The drawer becomes still again. A doorway into calm opens inside your chest. A clean, gentle space where nothing presses, nothing buzzes, nothing asks for attention. You step back, and the air around the drawer grows quieter yet, as if acknowledging what you've just done. You've closed something that no longer needs to speak. As you leave the crystal drawer behind, the quiet seems to deepen in a way that feels almost tidal, a slow withdrawal of everything that once pressed against the edges of your mind. The path opens into a wide, dim chamber where the air feels warmer, softer, almost velvety against your skin. You can sense it before you see it. This is the place where your inner waters rest, where the currents of your emotions settle into something gentle and low. You step forward, and the ground beneath you feels different. Smooth, cool, slightly reflective, like the surface of a shallow pool just after the waves have drawn back. The room holds a faint shimmer, not bright, but warm, as if the walls themselves are breathing in time with you. And somehow, without being told, you know this place has always mirrored the rhythm of your heart. Tonight the tide is low, not drained, just peaceful, pulled back enough to reveal the quiet landscapes beneath, the thoughts you didn't have the energy to feel earlier, the emotions you carried without realizing, the weight you swallowed because you had to keep moving. Now, with your breath slowing and the archive holding you in its soft, patient quiet, Everything inside you settles into a gentle receding. You walk a little farther, and the reflective ground ripples faintly beneath your steps. Not from disturbance, but from recognition. Your inner world knows you're here. It knows you're finally giving yourself permission to rest. Do you feel that subtle ease in your chest? That faint loosening beneath your ribs, almost like an ocean learning how to calm itself? For so long, your inner waters have been rising and falling without pause, pulled by stress, by expectation, by tiny worries gathering like wind. But here the tide belongs entirely to you. It moves in slow, deliberate breaths, each one softening the surface, smoothing the ripples, coaxing the waves into stillness. You kneel, not out of duty, but because your body wants to. And when your hand grazes the cool surface, the whole chamber reacts with a quiet glow that spreads outward like warmth beneath the skin. It's as if the water is acknowledging you, thanking you for noticing it, for touching it gently instead of trying to command it. Your heartbeat slows in response, not because you force it to, but because the tide inside you finally has room to rest. You might wonder quietly, is this what calm is? Supposed to feel like? This soft, this unhurried? And the room answers with its silence, a steady, embracing kind of hush that tells you yes. Yes, this is how your heart feels when the tides are low, when nothing stirs the deep waters, when everything inside you is allowed to simply be. You sit there for a moment longer, letting the peace seep upward from the floor into your legs, your spine, your shoulders, your breath. Each rise and fall of your lungs feels like a wave, smoothing itself into the sand. Each beat of your heart feels like a soft knock on a familiar door. This is your rhythm, your tide, your rest, and it's been waiting for you. You don't need to hold anything here, you don't need to brace. Just sit a while with the low tide inside you, letting it calm you in ways the waking world never quite manages to do. When you rise from the place of the low tide, something inside you feels strangely lighter, not empty, not hollow, just freed. As though you've set down a weight you'd been balancing for so long, you forgot it wasn't part of your body. The air around you seems to sense this shift, and it guides you forward into a narrower passage that widens slowly into a space unlike any you've stepped into so far. The chamber of weightless rest. You feel it before you see it, the gentle pull, the softness in your limbs, the way your breath falls into a more natural rhythm without your asking. And when you fully enter, the chamber greets you with a warm, muted glow that feels like the inside of a seashell held against your ear. Everything is rounded here. The walls curve inward, the ceiling arcs overhead like a dusk sky. The floor slopes with such subtlety that standing feels like being gently held. But it's the air that you notice most. It carries a delicate buoyancy, almost like the embrace of warm water. Each inhale lifts you just a little, and each exhale invites you deeper into your own stillness. Your body loosens without effort. Your shoulders drift lower. Even your thoughts seem to float more freely, as if the heaviness that once tugged at them has dissolved. There's a small platform in the center of the chamber, shaped like an oval cocoon carved from something soft and smooth. You move toward it instinctively, not out of urgency, but out of that quiet, inner knowing. This is where I rest. When you settle onto it, the surface shifts ever so slightly beneath you, adjusting to the natural shape of your body. There's no pressure, no resistance, only support. You sink without sinking, held without being contained. A sensation spreads across your back, your arms, your legs, the unmistakable feeling of being weightless. Have you ever felt this before? Not physically, but emotionally. That rare moment when the world loosens its grip, when your inner voice stops pushing, when the breath becomes a soft whisper instead of a tight demand. This chamber recreates that feeling, letting your mind and body align into the same gentle suspension. As you lie there, the glow around you begins to pulse faintly in rhythm with your breath. The whole room seems to breathe with you, each inhale expanding the dim light, each exhale letting it soften again. And with every breath, you feel more and more like you're floating in a warm, early night horizon. Your thoughts drift, not away, but into a kind of soft orbit. They're still there, but they don't cling. They don't pull. They simply hover at the edge of your awareness, harmless and quiet, like fireflies blinking lazily in tall grass. The longer you rest here, the more the chamber works its gentle magic. Muscles unspool, old tension loosens, emotions settle into calm pools. Even the tiny stresses you didn't know you were carrying begin to rise to the surface, and then fade into the warmth beneath you. You feel lighter, you feel quieter, you feel gently undone in the best possible way. This is your personal stillness, a place where you don't have to earn rest or deserve it or prove anything to receive it. You only have to breathe and let yourself be held for a while. Stay as long as you need. When you finally rise from the cradle of weightlessness, something within you has shifted in a way that doesn't need words. It's quieter, not just around you, but inside. The kind of quiet that feels earned, but not through effort, through surrender, through being gentle with yourself, through letting the night hold what you no longer need to carry. The chamber opens into a narrow walkway, dim and warm, and your steps feel softer here, as if the ground itself is cushioning each movement. There's no lantern now, no glowing shelves, no drifting dust, only instinct guiding you forward, a kind of inner compass that points not ahead, but inward, deeper, toward that last, most hidden place, the core. You reach it almost without realizing. The doorway is plain, barely marked, the kind of entrance that doesn't announce itself because it doesn't need to. When you step through, the space around you expands into a gentle, velvety dark, not empty, but full of a strange, comforting presence, a silence that isn't the absence of sound, but the presence of calm. You pause, letting your breath adjust, letting your body sense the shift. This is the heart of the archive, the place where your mind finally stops trying to speak. There is nothing to see, and yet it feels full, nothing to listen for, and yet it feels alive, nothing to hold, and yet it feels like you're being held. You take a slow breath, the kind that deepens all the way into your spine, and with that breath, the core seems to respond. Not with movement, not with light, but with something softer, a sensation of settling, like a blanket being drawn gently up to your shoulders. Here, thoughts don't disappear. They simply stop asking for attention. They curl up, like tired animals, and fall asleep on their own. You might notice how your chest feels looser now, how your jaw rests without tension, how your breath begins to lengthen in ways you didn't realize it needed. The quiet inside you isn't thin or fragile. It feels sturdy, like a soft, steady tide that continues even when you aren't paying attention. In this darkness, there is nothing to replay, nothing to plan, nothing to fix. It's such a relief, isn't it? A relief that almost makes your eyes heavier, your limbs warmer, your mind softer around the edges. You sit, or maybe you sink, into a kind of invisible cushion that molds itself perfectly beneath you. The quiet wraps around you like warm fabric, and suddenly the entire day feels far, far away. Even the thoughts you held earlier in this very journey feel like stories told long ago, their echoes already dissolving into the walls. You feel safe here, safe to let go, safe to drift, safe to sleep, and maybe just. Before you begin to sink into deeper rest, a simple realization rises in you, gentle, unhurried. This quiet is mine. It was always mine. The archive isn't a place outside you. It's your mind's own sanctuary, its deepest instinct for peace, its oldest memory of rest. You let the darkness cradle you. You let your breath slow. You let everything soften. And as the last traces of waking consciousness begin to loosen their hold, you settle into the core of yourself. A place where silence isn't empty, it's healing.